Hello, this is A World Gone Mad. Every day with Donald Delusional in the White House, it is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'm back again to give some insight on the news and the chaos that's happening nationally and all around the world. So here we go. The Israel-Iran conflict and Trump's demand for surrender. Over the past week, Israel and Iran have entered a dangerous new phase of direct conflict. Israel launched a series of precision airstrikes deep into Iranian territory, targeting military, nuclear, and command infrastructure, including Natanz, missile production centers, and Tehran's Imam Hussein University. Now, Iran responded with waves of missile, drone attacks, including hypersonic Fatah 1 missiles, although Israel intercepted most. Some penetrated defenses, causing civilian casualties. Now, the scale of the exchanges has strained both nations' defense systems. Analysts suggest Iran has lost up to 70% of its missile launcher capacity due to the Israeli strikes. President Donald Trump then issued a stark ultimatum demanding Iran's unconditional surrender. Yes, he actually said that. He said that Tehran is totally defenseless and hinting the U.S. might assist Israel with potential strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, including bunker buster weapons. Now, he said it may be too late for negotiations. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei issued a public televised response Wednesday rejecting Trump's demand as absurd, stating Iran will not surrender and warning any U.S. military intervention would inflict irreparable damage. Tehran's UN ambassador echoed this defiance, declaring the U.S. complicit and promising Iran would respond firmly if America crosses their red lines. Now, meanwhile, U.S. forces are reportedly repositioning in the region, and embassies are on alert amid rising tensions. Now, the consequences of U.S. strikes in Iran: if the U.S. joins Israel in striking Iran, it could ignite a wider regional war. Iran's allies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shiite militias in Iraq, and possibly the Houthis in Yemen could retaliate against U.S. and Israeli targets. Now, Syria might also become a battleground. Global powers like Russia and China, though unlikely to intervene directly, could back Iran diplomatically or through arms support, while oil markets could destabilize, triggering economic shocks worldwide. U.S. bases across the Middle East would likely face coordinated attacks, risking American lives and further escalation. This is ridiculous. This is a situation where people who are unstable leaders, especially Donald Trump, make ridiculous demands. You should surrender, just to look good in the eyes of the world and to fuel his ego. Throw in Benjamin Netanyahu is just flexing his muscle everywhere. We have set the stage for a huge conflagration in the Middle East. People, we need cooler heads and less ego. Mike Lee's reaction to Minnesota political shootings. In the wake of the June 14, 2025 shootings that killed Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, injured State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, events later revealed to be committed by a pro-Trump conservative suspect. Utah Senator Mike Lee then posted inflammatory messages on X. He shared a photo of the accused and wrote, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way," followed by a mock phrase, "Nightmare on Wall Street," blaming Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Democrats for this tragedy. His comments drew swift bipartisan backlash, including from Minnesota Senators Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, who publicly condemned the remarks as insensitive and misleading. Now, after facing mounting criticism, including from the Deseret News, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and other Republicans, Lee then deleted the controversial posts, but notably did not apologize. Senator Tina Smith reportedly confronted him in person to express the pain his comments caused, while Klobuchar acknowledged discussing the matter directly with him and expressed relief when at least Lee's posts were removed. The incident sparked a broader debate over political rhetoric and the responsibilities of public officials in responding to acts of violence. We have a tragedy in Minnesota where political people are being targeted, and notably Democrats, and killed. And Mike Lee, a representative, a senator from Utah, shows his true self by posting asinine posts blaming the Democrats for this. We are in Looney Tunes land, everyone. How in the name of sanity are the Democrats to blame for these shootings? Shame on you, Mr. Lee. Social Security could run short by 2034 in a new update. The Social Security Trust Fund, meant to cover retirement and survivor benefits, is now forecast to be depleted by 2034, a year sooner than the previous estimate recently, according to the annual report from the Social Security and Medicare Board of Trustees. At this point, incoming payroll taxes would only fund about 81% of scheduled benefits, meaning retirees could see a 19% cut in monthly payments unless Congress acts to shore up funding. Now, the earlier depletion is driven by a combination of higher benefit payouts, boosts from the Social Security Fairness Act, slower wage growth, and demographic shifts like lower fertility rates and rising healthcare costs are also straining Medicare, expected to hit the shortfall now in 2033. With over 68 million Americans relying on these programs, lawmakers face a stark choice: either raise revenue via tax increases or lifting payroll tax caps, or reduce benefits, adjust eligibility. Delaying action will likely force tougher, more abrupt cuts later. Republicans and Democrats, get off your ass. Solve this issue. This is not a little issue. 68 million people rely on these programs, and you're going to screw them over by not doing the right thing? Any of my Wolfpack listeners need these programs? I believe a lot of you do. Again, complete lack of caring from these leaders in charge, so-called leaders. Kristi Noem, Nutcake Noem, seeks control over FEMA and DHS funding. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has issued a sweeping memo requiring her approval for every DHS contract and grant over $100,000, routing billions in funding, including money from FEMA, Customs, the Coast Guard, Secret Service, and more, through her office. This adds at least an expected 5-day delay per request, even during disaster response, raising alarms among FEMA officials who warn it could cause significant bottlenecks when rapid aid is essential. Noem's directive follows her broader push, alongside President Trump, to reform or dismantle FEMA after the 2025 hurricane season, shifting disaster response responsibilities to governors and states. Critics argue these moves will undermine FEMA's ability to support states during crisis and weaken institutional expertise, and risk delayed response in life or death situations. We are now playing with life or death during disasters, and Noem wants to control everything. The funding. How many more examples from these people do we need to see before people who vote understand they don't care? How many times do I need to say this to Republicans? That these people don't care. And that includes you, Republican voters. They don't care about you. Trump jokes about running the Fed himself. During a press event criticizing the Federal Reserve's decision to hold interest rates steady, President Trump quipped, "Am I allowed to appoint myself at the Fed? I'll do a much better job than these people." The comment, while delivered as a joke, reflected Trump's ongoing frustration with Chair Jerome Powell and the Fed's reluctance to cut rates more aggressively in the face of economic concerns. And today, Powell announced rates stay the same for now. Even flippant throwaway remarks like this show that Donald is not a leader. The so-called stable genius can do everything better than anyone else, whether it be Fed chairmen, generals, scientists. You fill in the blank, listeners. I've talked about this several episodes back, and this was interesting. That reinforces something I was thinking about in the back of my mind. The headline read, Liberal Doomsday Prepping on the Rise Amid Trump's Reelection. A growing number of progressive Americans are engaging in prepping due to fears of climate collapse, government breakdown, and potential policy rollbacks under the second Trump term. Now, unlike traditional right-wing survivalists, left-leaning preppers focus on community resilience, mental preparedness, climate-driven infrastructure vulnerabilities, a movement described as ruggedizing life and fostering mutual aid networks. Now, estimates suggest millions are preparing in some capacity, with liberals making up roughly 15% of those millions. Of the prepper population stockpiling water, food, medications, and emergency supplies with increased interest in the wake of Trump's reelection. Their motivations span concerns about governmental institutional failure, threats to reproductive rights like banning Plan B, climate-induced disasters, and possibly civil unrest. Many liberal preppers emphasize emotional resilience, community coordination, self-reliance rather than weapons and bunkers. Pew-style researchers note that about half of Americans practice some form of disaster prep, mirroring a broader mistrust in governmental responses. While still a minority, within prepping 15%, this progressive movement is growing, building diverse support networks ahead of potential crisis. Now, I've talked about this a few times in previous episodes, and I'll ask you again, any of you prepping? I know a few of you are. I'm not talking about doomsday preppers. I'm talking about rational preparing for the worst. I told you before, Natasha, my girlfriend, and I have been doing this for years. Are you? And if not, why not? Don't leave yourself caught in a crisis because you didn't take action. All right. Turning it around, and time for our inspiring, uplifting story. Okay, changing direction. United Way Midland launches 105 days of action. In Midland County, Michigan, the United Way kicked off its 105th days of action, started June 16th, going to go through June 19th, finishing up, inviting the community to take part in 22 volunteer projects. These include neighborhood cleanups, painting public spaces, building homes, leveraging support from companies like Dow and Consumers Energy, as well as 250 volunteers across participating nonprofits. The emphasis on volunteerism stems from the idea that donated time is a vital resource valued at $31.80 per hour. Now, Midland United Way estimates the collective labor of volunteers will add over $22,500 in value, enabling nonprofits to focus more on funding on direct social services. Local organizer Megan Crockett noted it's about community-wide impact, whether you're at a construction site, cleaning fences, or tutoring children. Every little bit helps, she says. She also emphasized that these events foster relationships between businesses, nonprofits, and citizens, creating a resilient civic network. As Midland celebrates more than a century of service, this year's event signifies both tradition and growth. By encouraging active volunteer participation and corporate citizenship, the days of action aim to create tangible improvements and underscore the shared goal of a stronger, kinder community. Look, people working together, trying to make a difference, trying to encourage others to volunteer and make things better, stronger, and kinder for the community. Okay, Wolfpack listeners, I have a question for you. Now, I've tried this multiple times, got little response. So I'm putting it directly to you, those who listen to my show. Here is the question. If America were a person today, what do you think they'd be feeling? And what would you say to them if you could? Let me repeat that. If America, our country, were a person, what do you think this person would be feeling right now? How would America be feeling right now? And what would you say to them, America as the person, if you could? I would like you, the Wolfpack listener, to reflect emotionally and symbolically on the state of our country. Please, I'd like to hear from you. I've asked hundreds of times before and received very little feedback. So I'd like you to start communicating with me so I can share with others because of where we are in our country today. 833-399-9653, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, toll-free voicemail box. That's all it is. And when you leave a message, all you have to say is, I'm Bob. Just use my first name in my comment. That's it. Or, I'm Mark from Minnesota. Please don't say my name with my comment. I'll honor that request. Or you can email me, a World Gone Mad podcast @gmail.com. You have to put all of that in, a World Gone Mad podcast @gmail. Come on, everyone. I'm trying. I'm asking again. I need more of you to participate and join in and support this by giving your feedback. You're listening to A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back again Friday with another episode. Waiting to hear from you. And if I don't, then I'm sitting in a room talking to myself. Stay hopeful.